Всем привет! Today I want to tell you about Russian traditional folks and fairy tales. I've chosen the most popular fairy tales and the fairy tales which had the biggest impact in Russian culture and which are very well known in Russian culture. The heroes of these fairy tales or the ideas of the fairy tales and all that stuff. So let's begin. The first fairy tale is called Turnip, and this is the fairy tale for, I guess, very little kids, because the plot is super simple. The plot starts when an old man had grown up a big white turnip, or turnip, I'm sorry if I pronounce incorrect, and when he wanted to pull it out from the earth, he couldn't do this because it was too big. And he called his wife, an old woman. They tried to do it together, but they couldn't. Then they called their granddaughter, and they also couldn't do this because it was super big. Then they called their dog and couldn't do this. Then their cat. And finally they called a little tiny mouse to help them, and all together with this little mouse they finally pulled this turnip out. So the idea of this fairy tale is in the importance of teamwork. That's what I like. And it's about the importance of each person in team, even the smallest one like a mouse, but they couldn't do anything without a mouse. But all the other members were important too, because we could see that it was useless from the strongest one to the smallest one, so only all together they did it well. And yeah, the fairy tale is super simple, but usually little kids like it because it is not like a poem, but it's something like a poem, and you tell them, I will tell it in English, so you repeat all the stuff many times, like they pull it out and couldn't pull it out, and they call their grandkid and pull it out and couldn't pull it out, and all that stuff. You can also use some mimics and something like this, some acting, and usually little kids, they like this fairy tale very much. The next very popular fairy tale is called Kolobok. Kolobok is the main character of this fairy tale, and Kolobok actually is just a round piece of dough, but it can speak. It has got something like a face. And the plot starts again with the family, with a couple, old couple, man and woman. The man asked if they have something to eat, and the woman looked for something, and the only thing she couldn't do is the big round piece of dough. But when she baked it, this piece of dough, which they called kolobok, it turned out to be alive, like yes, around the head or something like this. And this kolobok said that he doesn't want to stay with them. He wants to leave the house, and he rolled away from the house to the forest. He rolled along the road and met different animals. Hare, bear, wolf, and they all wanted to eat him, but he said, I'm too fast and you can't catch me, and he just rolled away from them. But finally he met a sly fox, and fox said to him, I don't want to eat you, but could you please jump on my nose and sing to me? And Kolobok said, okay, no problem. He jumped on her nose and she catched him, and actually she ate him after that. So the idea of this fairy tale, I read that the idea is so Kolobok, it's a son, and his this old man and old woman, his parents, and this fairy tale actually is about the son who grown up and he leaves his home, but he's young and he's fast, so that's why when he had some difficulties, when he met some bad characters, he could run away, but because of he is young and he is not experienced, when he met some fraud who was sly, he was murdered. So that was what this fairy tale is actually about, and it's super popular. Recently there was a movie, Russian movie, Kolobok, but it looked very weird and no one actually liked it. And in ancient Russian language, kolobok means round bread, because kolo, that's round, not in modern Russian, but that time it meant it translated like that. The next fairy tale, which I really like, it is called The Porridge Made from Ox. That's about soldier who was going back home from his soldier work from some far away place. He was going back just by his foot. His way was quite long, and he was going through some village where he wanted to stay at night, and he asked some old woman to stay at night in her home, and she agreed. But also he asked if she has something to eat, and she had, but she was greedy and she didn't want to share her food with the soldier. So she said that no, I have nothing to suggest you. And then the soldier said, oh, I can see the ox in the corner of your home. I can show you how to cook porridge from this ox. And woman, she was of course very surprised and very curious, and she said, okay, let's do this. So he asked her to bring the pot, to pour the water, to boil it, put the ox there, and started boiling it and tasting the water. And the old woman asked, so how is it? Is it okay? And he said, yes, it's okay, but we should salt it a little bit. She said, okay, brought him the salt. He boiled it again, added the salt, tasted one more time, and woman asked, is it okay now? How is it going? He said, oh, it's really cool, but it would be good if we added some cereals. She said, well, okay, and she brought some cereals. He added it too, continued boiling, and then he tasted again and said, that's quite good, we're almost done it, but we have to add some sugar, it would be good. She said, okay, added some sugar. And then in the end he said, yes, it's done, and it would be perfect if we add some butter. So she brought the butter and they added the butter, and the porridge was ready actually. And she asked, but the ox is still in the pot, and why? He said, well, it didn't boil till the end, so I'll give it to you back. You can use it the next time when you want to cook, but we did this one, so you can use this ox many times. And that's how he that's how he used his brain to get the food and to make this woman give him some foods. The next fairy tale is called Maroska. Maroska is a spirit in the forest, the spirit of the frost. Moroz in Russian means frost, so Maroska, it's some kind of name from this word. The plot is that there was a family, again old man, the stepmother, and daughters. One daughter was stepdaughter of this woman, and she also had two her own daughters. And of course, like in Cinderella, she loved her own daughters and didn't love this daughter of her husband. So one day she said to her husband, I don't like her, bring her to the forest and live there. And the old man was very sad, of course, but he did it. And I always that always surprises me in these fairy tales because this kind of plot is very popular. So he left his daughter in the forest, in the middle of the forest in the winter. It was very cold, and she was sitting there freezing. And then the spirit Maroska came. Maroska, I pronounced it in English. Maroska came to her and he asked, "How do you feel? Do you feel cold? What is your name?" He asked her different questions, and she felt bad. She was freezing, but she answered him very gently in a very polite way, and that's why the spirit said, "I'll help you, I will save you, and I'll give you some warm clothes." They were very beautiful, very Porsche, and he helped her to go back home. And when her father and stepmom saw her, they were very surprised, and stepmother saw that she's got lots of Porsche things, and she asked what happened, how did it happen. She told her, and she decided to do the same thing for her own daughters. She asked her husband to bring them to the forest too and live there. And again, they were sitting there and freezing. And Maroska came to them and started talking with them the same way, asking them, but they were angry and they answered in a rude manner. And that's why he didn't help them and they were frozen to death. That's actually the plot. That's the ending of the story. So the story itself about the importance of being polite, being nice, and being gentle with people. So, that's a bit weird, but that's a fairy tale for children anyway. The next story is about two kids, brother and sister. Sister's name is Alenushka. Alenushka, it's the soft form of name Yelena. It can be Alena or Alenushka. That was very popular in villages. Nowadays, not only in villages, but before it was a typical village girl name. And her brother Ivanushka, yes, Ivanushka, that's also the soft version of name Ivan. And they were walking through the forest. And brother, he was younger, he said to the sister that he is thirsty and he wants to drink something. And he asked if he can drink the water from pool. And sister said that no, you shouldn't do this. If you drink from the pool, you will turn into a little goat. And but her brother, he didn't believe her, and he drank from the water from the pool anyway, and he turned into a goat. So that's the main idea of this story. There was a second part, but it's not very famous, and this is the very well-known plot in Russia, very popular in the culture. So it's I think this story was created for little kids to explain them that they shouldn't drink dirty water because they can get ill and die or something like this. The next fairy tale is called Chicken Ryaba. Ryaba, it's the very popular name for chickens in Russian tradition. In the villages, it was before, because Ryaba means porky. That's because of their color. So they have a lot of different spots, and that's why porky. So it's literally it means chicken pocky. So the story takes place again in the home of an old couple, old man and his old wife. They had this chicken, Ryaba, and this chicken brought them an egg, but not usual egg. The egg was gold, and it was like made from gold. They tried to break it, to eat it like a usual egg, but they couldn't do this. They hit it all the possible ways, try to drop it somewhere, or I don't know, so crash it in all ways, but they couldn't. And finally, the mouse was running and touched it with her tail, and the egg fall down on the floor and it was broken. But when it was broken, they felt sad about it and started crying. And chicken told them that don't cry, I'll bring you another egg, but maybe it will be the usual one, not golden. And the idea of the story is about happiness and how people devalue their happiness. So the gold egg is happiness, and people don't understand it and they try to break it in all possible ways. But even when they can't do this, something from the side can happen and your happiness will be broken, and then you will regret about it. So that's what the story is about. The next fairy tale is also quite simple. I would say that it's for little kids too, for little babies even. It is called Teремок. Terem is a Russian traditional old house made from wood. So Teремок is like a smaller one, or it's like a soft way of saying this word, a gentle way. And it's about different animals who built this Teремок, or they found it, I don't really remember. And first of all, the hare found this Teремок and decided to live there. Then some other animals like fox, wolf, and many of them. And there were too much animals inside, but they wanted, the more and more animals wanted to come in and stay there. And finally the bear came and he tried to come in, but he just broke the whole house, and after that animals were forced to come back to the forest. So I think this fairy tale is about stupidness, about when you don't understand that you don't need to use this thing with that way, and then you break it and leave, and you're left with nothing. So something like this. The next one is not fairy tale, it's a character, very popular, which is called Baba Yaga. That's a Russian witch, Russian hag. That's an old woman living in the forest in the tiny wooden house. And this house has got chicken legs. And there are many fairy tales with this character, so with many different plots. And when someone meets this house, they should say, "House, turn back to me. Turn to me with your door, and with the back to the forest." That's how you can enter this house. And also there's Baba Yaga. She can fly, but in a special thing. I don't know how to call it. We call it a stupa. And this is actually the thing where people melt the different spices. But it's small, and for her it's quite big. And she sits inside and flies everywhere. And to as a wheel, she uses a broomstick. So she does such kind of movements with broomstick, and that's how she makes directions how to fly. So this is the evil character, and that's very popular in Russian. If you watched John Wick, his name was Baba Yaga because he had some connections with Russians. But actually that sounds really stupid when you're Russian, because Baba Yaga, yes, it's a bad character, but it's very comedy character. It's an old woman, actually a bit funny, a bit crazy, and every time she she's kicked by everyone because yes, she is dangerous and she is vicious, but there are many funny endings of the fairy tales when she was kicked. And I think that's not really suitable for John Wick. I would call him maybe Chort. That's a Russian version of devil. And I think that sounds better and the idea is better. I don't know why they've chosen like this, because for Russian that sounds super funny and super, I don't know, not stupid, but something like this. And actually, I didn't really like that John Wick. I watched two movies, the first and the fourth, and I mean visually it's cool, but I was a bit upset because they hired not Russian-speaking actors for Russians, and they spoke so terribly the Russian. I couldn't understand what they are saying. I understood what they're saying because I watched with English subtitles, and I needed to read English subtitles to understand their Russian because they couldn't pronounce it normally, and I don't understand why they didn't hire Russian-speaking actors, not even Russian, okay, but there are many Russian-speaking people in the world from post-Soviet Union countries, and because I believe that they tried hard to pronounce all these things, to learn them by heart, but that was terrible. And I don't understand why do they do this, because I don't understand the problem. So let's go back to the fairy tales. The next one is Masha и Медведь. That means Masha and the bear. The most popular names for characters. For girls, Masha, that's the short version of Maria, Alena, as I said before, and for boys, usually that's Ivan or Vanya, that's soft version of Ivan. So Masha is a little girl. She came to the forest to pick up berries and mushrooms, but she got lost there, and the bear found her and decided to take her to his forest house to make her a servant. So she needed to tidy his house, to cook the food, and yes, like being a servant. But she, of course, she didn't like it and she wanted to come back home. So she said to him that I baked some cakes for my family. Could you please bring it to them? And the bear said, okay. She said, I'll put it in the box and you have to bring this box, but please don't look inside while you during your way to my family. And the bear said okay, and she put these cakes, but she hid down under these cakes in this box. And while bear was bringing this box, several times he wanted to open the box and eat something, and as I remember, maybe he even opened it and saw the cakes, and she was under the cakes, but she started saying, don't open the box, don't take anything, with such tiny voice or high voice, and the bear thought, oh, okay, I'm not going to. And that's how he brought this box to her family, and she came back to her family alive. So again, it's about how useful to be sly sometimes. Also, we have a fairy tale again about Masha, but that's different Masha. Masha and three bears, but that's very same with gold hair. I think it's a popular fairy tale in English and German speaking traditions, so the plot is absolutely the same, so I'm not going to retell it. And I think that's it. That were the most popular fairy tales. Maybe there are some something else, but some of the fairy tales has very difficult and strange plot, and I chose the ones which are more or less simple, popular, and understandable while retelling them. So I think that was a lot for today, and I hope that you loved it, and that it was interesting for you. So thank you for watching, and пока-пока.